6:30 and call to order the North Middlesex Regional High School Committee meeting. It is, we're at the middle school. We are at the high school, sorry.
We just need to make sure we talk louder, so that
At 6:30. It's 6:30, we're opening the meeting. We have members from Zoom that are on, is that correct? All right, and I will take a roll call. We have Will Hackler. You want to say yes?
Here, present.
Patrick McPhillips,
Present.
Lisa Bloom,
here,
June McNeil,
here,
Randy Roush.
here.
Do we want to say our other members, or is it just members? Brad Morgan is here.
Yes, I am.
Dr. Reese is here. Nancy Haynes is here. Ryan DeMar is here, our athletic director. And in the audience, we have Jeremy Hammond. This slipped my name. Kevin Comier and Lisa. Come on. And I'm going to ask that we move Ryan Bailey to the top of the agenda because he has to get back to the PCA for a comedy talent show. So, all right, Ryan, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm a senior here at the high school, and last year I did the civic action project about paper recycling. And the main mill I used was Monadnock Paper Mills, trying to figure out a way to do something called closed loop recycling. I have a hard copy out for everybody. Essentially what it is that if we give our paper to this mills, they'll recycle it and bring it back to us. So instead of us having to constantly cut down these trees, we'll be able to be using the same supply of paper, just refreshed and renewed. I tried emailing them when I did the project and during the summer, but unfortunately they said they couldn't give me much information because I wasn't technically supported by the business that I was doing. So I'm coming here to seeking permission to say that we are potentially interested. And if we don't make a decision yet, that's perfectly fine. I just want to know so I can start working with them. And if we don't approve it, we don't have to approve it in the day, but I just need to get the information from them for money and stuff. So if we do approve, I'll need someone to contact here about budget and papers so I don't get anything wrong. And just get info and prices about our current paper supply. Secondary, if we don't want to quite do it yet, we could still set up, it's turning to Q2 soon. We want to set up maybe flexes and advisories where people throw away their paper in collection bins, since at the end of the quarter, people have a bunch of paper they don't need. And usually, you know, I always did a big like burnout at the end of the year with it. And I'm like, that's just a waste. So people can throw it in these, and we like to get that maybe started soon so we can experiment with waste. So I like to start an environmental club here that can work with that can sort through the paper and allow us to use this closed loop recycling. We would fundraise for collection bins. These big collection bins we can do during advisory, and we like to get individual bins in most of the classrooms. And we'll need to do fundraising that the group can run. And we need a storage area. I know that there are some rooms that aren't fully used in the school right now. There are some side rooms of science classroom that I know is vacant. We could move it outside at all. We'd also need to figure that out. Data that I found is that we use 7 tons of paper every year. And that's constantly every year that we're cutting down roughly 102 trees worth, which is a lot for a school, especially our size. So I'd like to do closed loop to minimize the amount of oil, water we use in our ecosystem. If anyone has any questions, I think the main thing I have, you don't have to make a vote on it yet, just look on this and see if I can get approval to start contacting Monadnock Paper Mills to see if they'll be interested in doing it with us and possibly start getting a collection service going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone from the committee have any questions at this time?
So in order to start getting a cost for any of this, they just need approval to be able to start working with us. There's no monetary or
No,
anything we need to commit to.
yeah, no, it's non-binding. It's just when I emailed them, they said, sorry, we understand that you're a student and we're not sure if your school, they don't want to waste time essentially.
Right.
So if I say, oh, the school has good at my back, then maybe they'll be able to give me prices and stuff. But nothing binding. No.
Okay. How did you come about this closed loop
So, I actually worked in, a part of North Service Learning and went down and they actually had a mill for that down there for almost the whole city, which is very impressive. And I thought that there's anything in New England that does that, and I found that Monadnock is the closest for paper. There's one, I think, 30 minutes away in, Massachusetts that is cardboard, if we want to extend to that, but start with just paper, and Monadnock Mills is a great producer of that recycling that a lot of businesses around here use. So I think it'd be cool to put our school into that, and start making that progress forward.
Were they able to give you any schools or businesses that are already using their services?
I can't remember the name of the businesses. I didn't find any schools yet, but they would consider us as a business per se. But still we can do it since we're a school.
And he had a great presentation at the Civic Action Day and so, and he talked to me about it and it was quite interesting. Yeah. So anyone else have any questions?
It seems like a great project, and he's just doing market research. Could we move to vote now, just to let him press? I mean, it
It's
seems
up
like
to the committee.
no
If
harm.
if you guys are good with it, we can move to vote. All right,
I'd be happy to work from here at the high school as well,
Okay.
just to be. a
this
point of
is just at the high school you're doing.
Yes, just the high school.
Okay. All right, so does somebody want to make a motion?
I move to give the schools permission to look into the feasibility for the full circle or the closed loop recycling program.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Would I, a quick question, would I also have approval to maybe start working with something for advisory, or do we not want to do that quite yet?
I will, Mr. Morgan said he would help you figure out who to
Thank you.
get in contact with and different things. And will you come back and present to us
I
again?
will.
Okay, so I'm gonna take everyone in favor. Vote.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Who's second? Patrick. All right, Brian, we have the approval.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank
Ryan.
you.
I put that out, but thank you very
Yes.
much.
So that's.
Good luck at your. All right, now we're gonna move back to the consent agenda. You can take a motion on the consent agenda.
So move.
What was second? And second, June. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Any public communications? I didn't see any.
I didn't see any.
All right, now we are on to Meredith. But Meredith was, mentioned in an article in the Sun, Lowell Sun, about her outstanding field hockey career and as a top student. So, and we sent out the article to everyone. Did everyone have a chance to look at it? Or it was in a public communication, so congratulations, Meredith. All right, now that I've put you on the spot, you can go ahead and give us the student report.
So Natalie, do you want to start?
Okay,
Oh, and this is Natalie.
okay, so we had homecoming September 28th, and that ran smoothly, it was a big success. And then this week, the student council is also starting to sell Halloween candy grams for students can purchase candy, and that funds will go towards the student council. As well as we have Spirit Week for this upcoming week for Halloween. We're also starting to plan for Veterans Day and the faculty chair. And so the committees are being together for budgeting. The Veterans Day celebration is November 7th. And school committee members are welcome.
What time is the Veterans Day program at?
Usually it's normally in the
It's in the
morning, it's like a
morning.
breakfast.
And I think everyone got an invitation on it, correct?
And then we have the Powder Puff game upcoming November 19th, 5 to 8 p.m. And it's gonna be grade versus grade. So it's freshmen versus sophomores, and then juniors versus seniors, and the winners of those two games will go against each other. And that's usually a big fun answer as well.
And that's November 19th.
Yes.
As for other things in the school, NHS inductions were 2 weeks ago, and we're always looking for more service opportunities. And as we start to get going, our individual service groups are being planned their projects, which is, because it's just like little groups of students in NHS who are going to do service projects around the school. for sports, and as our fall season's winding down, many teams are heading into tournament season, which I know we're all very excited for. But there's also a lot of building excitement around winter sports, because I know I'm talking to some like that's from indoor track, and we're all very excited for that to start. And just other news, ROCAPA National Honor Society had their inductions, as well as the Tri-Am National Music Honor Society.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for the representatives? All right. Thank you, Natalie and Meredith. If you guys want to go, you are free to go and do your homework. And thank you.
Thanks, girls.
Thank you. All right. My report. Just some bookkeeping. There's some quarries that need to be completed. And then if everyone would, when the meeting is sent out, just acknowledge that you got it, or if you're coming or not declining. And I think that is all on that. And then superintendent's report.
I don't have anything until we get into the budget.
All right. And then you're up, Mr. DeMar.
Oh, perfect. So I just wanted to, come to the school committee to request approval for the North Middlesex Regional High School baseball team to do an overnight trip to Mashpee for it's March, it's in March, it's Friday, March 28th through Sunday, March 30th. They go down there, they've done it, they've done it in the past, they play a couple of scrimmages, it's about a little less than 2 weeks into the season. It is something that they've already started fundraising for, and it's, you know, a situation where it's not only the opportunity to scrimmage some teams from different parts of the state, but it's also an opportunity for them to do some team bonding. It's something that Coach Beauregard has, I mean, he's done now, I know at least for 2 years, the legwork for all of this, and he handles the logistics, and I know he, in my, at least in the packet, he offered both the itinerary kind of day to day, but then also some of the, you know, some of the pertinent information, hotel location, the funding, those type of things. He's, with that, I know there's a fee in there that talks about like $300 a player. He's provided, I would say, at least 4 different fundraising opportunities for families as ways to cut into that amount. So it's not necessarily a burden in terms of for families, because it's something he's discussed with them all along. He's also already got the process going with the nurses. He's given them kind of a list of prospective students or players, so that it is obviously a wide list because they don't try it until March, but he wanted to give them plenty of time to get ahead of that. He has submitted the out-of-state overnight field trip form request as well. That has been looked at by the interim principal here at high school. And has, like I said, been moved on to the nurse. And it even, you know, he kind of goes into the medical piece of it. He traditionally has a parent there that is either has a nurse or a doctor background, and they are one of the few teams, I would say, in Massachusetts that have their own AED that they travel with. It's something they bought early on in Coach Beauregard's tenure here, and they bring it practice games everywhere. So they are well equipped in case of any medical situations there. I also know that he meets with his coaches and chaperones prior to this trip, and goes over kind of the procedures for different scenarios. Just again, so those medical concerns are kind of, at least the anxiety that may come from those are kind of squashed prior to heading, and they have a plan for all those different situations.
Anyone have any questions for Ryan? Mr. Dwan?
Looks like you've covered We've done everything.
I will take a motion then to approve the trip.
I move the school committee approve the North Middlesex Regional High School baseball team's overnight trip to Cape Cod for team building scrimmage games from March 28th, 2025 to March 30th, 2025.
Second.
And that was William and Country. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? No, it's all approved, Ryan.
Thank you.
We are on to the homeschool report. As the athletics tiered sponsor form has been removed from the agenda and the Washington DC trip is removed as well. Okay. I think you're up to the next three.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As we do each year, I just submit the report, annual report to notify the committee of the number of families and number of students that are enrolled for homeschool programs. So each year, families have to submit a new application to identify what their curriculum is and their means of assessing their children through the homeschool program. We're continuing to see a decline in the number of families we spiked in the 2021 school year to 215 students, and that was kind of post-COVID or mid-COVID. So we're continuing to see a decline. I don't anticipate, we're not back to the pre-COVID numbers yet. I really don't anticipate that we'll ever get back to that level because I think some families who had the opportunity to explore homeschooling when we were in a pandemic period have actually found that that was a more beneficial opportunity for their children to learn. So they've maintained that. But we are continuing to see a decline. It represents now only 4.55% of our students, overall student population. And it's a decrease from last year of 8.28% in the number of students that are doing homeschool programs.
What age groups predominantly are being homeschooled at this time?
It's really mixed. So the report, we see between like 10 to 15 students anywhere for each grade level from grade 1 up to grade 10. When we get into grade 11 and 12, it's down to about 5 students at each grade level, and kindergarten, we do have 5 students, which kindergarten's not required for families to submit a plan unless their child is turning 6 prior to January 1st of the year that they would have been in kindergarten, because kindergarten is not a required attendance program.
And do we find that there's an increase, decrease, or about the same of parents actually asking to be in a particular class, like at the high school for a lab class or for supplement?
No, we don't really see a lot of that. I see more of it in terms of families that want to explore or participate in extracurricular activities such as athletics, or even we had one family last year or at the beginning of this year that wanted to make sure that their child could still participate in things like school dances. And as long as they work through the high school administration, they're still able to attend those programs, and as long as they're also complying with rules and expectations.
Any more questions? Onto the professional development plan. Dr. Reese.
So just another quick update. So this year we have 4 early release, late start PD days. And what we decided to do for this year was have our staff at the elementary, middle, and high school level go through a rotation for 3 of those days, where one day they would be receiving professional development focused in special education topics, and that's going to be led by our Director of Special Education, Erin Upton. Massachusetts is implementing a new IEP, Individualized Education Program, this year, and that's work that our special education staff need to be aware of, but this also impacts for how it looks and how our regular education teachers what their understanding of the process needs to be. So that's going to be one area of focus. The second area of focus is around our multilingual learners. And last year we had an outside consultant from Mountaintop Consulting work with our multilingual teachers. They felt had very positive feedback, and so we're bringing her back to do whole staff training, really around strategies and supports for students as they're working within the general education setting to make sure that we're meeting the needs, better meeting the needs of all students. And the third area that we're providing PD on those days for is around restorative justice, restorative practices. And restorative practices is really, a lot of times when people think of it, they think just around the discipline piece and making sure that the discipline when a child behaves in a certain way that we wouldn't like, that they then are restoring the sense of community to whatever they've done. So if it's something in the cafeteria, what can they do to then restore their ability to be in the cafeteria and not interfere with other kids' access to enjoying lunch or things like that. But it really, at the base level, restorative practices is really about how do we create a caring and safe community that all students understand that and then want to be complying with rules and expectations. Because if a child doesn't have that sense of belonging in their classroom, and then we're asking them to restore themselves within a behavior in the classroom, there's no incentive for them to do that because they don't care about that connection. So restorative practices at the base level is first just starting with how do we create that sense of belonging and community that all students feel respected, feel safe, and want to be part of the community. And so we're working with Suffolk University's Center for Restorative Justice, and they're going to be providing an overview this year. And my hope is that it'll be very well received by staff, and then we'll continue a model with them into subsequent school years where they provide more specific training on implementing it and working with small groups of teachers so that we can start to do some pockets of growing that practice. So this really will just be an overview during a 2-hour process. And the other thing I just wanted to highlight in terms of professional development, we do have our upcoming November 5th PD Day, and we are collaborating with Lunenburg Public Schools for this PD. This is a great opportunity for us to save some money, to share some of our resources and expertise. We have a keynote speaker, Dr. Erin Nerlino, who's really has done some work. She was a former teacher at King Philip Regional School District. And while she was there, she did work with students around interrupting harassment speech. How do you interrupt? How do you do it in a safe way when you see something happening, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student? How do you intervene, but intervene safely? And so there was a structured program she was doing there at King Philip. She's now, I forget what college she's at, but she's now a college professor, and she's continuing that work at the college level of how do we provide support. So she's going to be our keynote for all staff to hear. Then she'll be doing some breakout sessions. All staff are going to have the opportunity after they see the keynote to self-select between a variety. We have probably about 40 to 50 different sessions that will run over 3 session blocks. So teachers will be able to self-select a topic that's most of interest to them. All of the topics are focused around the concept of caring, safe, and inclusive environments. So we're excited about doing it. I know we did this work with Lunenburg. I don't know if it was pre-COVID or right during COVID, of kind of sharing our PD work together. And we're looking forward to doing it again. And it'll be hosted here at the high school.
And you said that's November 5th.
That's our November 5th.
Any questions from Dr. Reese? Right. On to MCAS.
So I'm gonna pass this over to Dr. Cormier, who has really been digging into the data. And what I will say is you'll see, and we'll try to keep it as concise as possible. I know there's a lot we can talk about, but it's not only a focus on our MCAS data, but it's also what are the other aspects of data that we're collecting, because MCAS is only one source of information for one period. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to look at all of the sources of data we have to make sure we're making effective progress for students and also making good education decisions. So thanks, Dr. Cooney.
Thank you, doctors. And so in a little bit of change in the past, I'm actually not gonna hit you with a lot of numbers. I've linked everything, the relevant data. So you can see the charts and tables if you're into that sort of thing. But I really took the time to dig into like, what's the story that this data is telling us and how is that gonna affect you know, the instructional practices and the priorities that we have going forward. Okay. All right, so the first thing is there's a district-wide accountability percentile where do we sit within the state. We see this from year to year. This is only just to kind of show you that this is what the state trends were. The state is pretty flat and slight decline overall. So I'm going to try and situate us as in relation to statewide data as well to show where we're sitting, where we're outperforming, where our sort of focus needs to be in order to kind of bring something up. But you see, like last year, there were 82% of schools that were not requiring the assistance. This year, it's down to down to 83 last year. Same with the progress, it's slightly down. Last year, there were 66 schools that received the school recognition award for their work in this area. There's only 50 this year. So you can see that already there's a little bit of a drop in statewide performance. And that's going to be pretty normal along the way. What measures it again, I'm not going to go through all this. The indicators, hyperlink will give you all the percentages and the weights and everything that goes into it. But these are what goes into the accountability system currently. So it does talk about MCAS, but it also talks about things like chronic absenteeism and at the high school level, the ability to access advanced coursework, and then things like graduation rate, dropout rate, and everything has a weight. It comes in, and then they rank you either as a non-high school or a high school. So the high schools are only compared to high schools, the non-high schools are only compared to non-high schools. So you can't compare them to each other. This year, none of our schools are targeted for any sort of assistance, and so I bolded Hawthorne because last year Hawthorne did have a finding around one group of our 8th grade students who did not enough of them took the MCAS. So we had a plan to make sure that was something that was addressed. It's one of those things where it's a subgroup that does not have a lot of students, so every individual student counts more towards a percentage. So we actually didn't have to do a lot of work. We just had to kind of be vigilant, take a look at it, and it kind of worked itself out. But we did what we needed to do, and now the state's not at it. So here's where we end up for our percentiles. I'm going to talk a little bit about these. So the elementary, again, we're about middle of the pack, give or take a little bit. Middle schools are a little bit low, but we'll talk about that a little bit. And high school is at the 43rd percentile. So again, somewhere near the middle. 40 to 60 is basically the middle. So you think of it as a bell curve. So if you're in the 40 to 60 range, you're typical. So we're not grossly underperforming. We're not grossly overperforming. We're about typical for the state. But what it comes down to is this. So the takeaways from it was that, first of all, achievement in high school exceeded everything we did in 2023. So we made some growth there, which is good, especially among students with disabilities. And that's something that we went into the year knowing was an issue that we needed to address. And so with specific work with some schools and with some departments, and we did make some really good gains there. So that was good. The attendance is the biggest thing that we have to struggle with. Those low scores on the accountability. The buildings, particularly Pepperell, got 0 out of 4 points for their chronic absenteeism. So we just had a way too high of a rate of absent students in almost all of our schools, but particularly in our Pepperell schools. So because of the way the weighting system works, like it dropped scores significantly, but it's one of the things that's an easy fix. If you get kids to school on a more regular basis, those scores come up very quickly. So it's not so much about the performance of the instruction and things like that. It's really about getting kids in the building, and from there, everything sort of rolls on. And then the other thing that's a little troubling is that the achievement score outweighs the growth score. We really do focus more on the growth, because that's where it, again, relates to how other students are doing. Achievement scores will fall and rise from year to year, depending on how our test was or different things. But growth is a constant measure, and we want that growth to be, like, as someone who's into the data, like I look at growth way more than I look at achievement. That's tells much more of a story. But it is only 1 year. It's not a trend yet, but it is something that's kind of take note of. If this happens again, then that might be something that interests us. Yes.
How do they define chronically absent?
If you miss 10% or more of the school year, so 18 days.
And that's absent, like excused or unexcused.
And before March 1st. They're comparing to March 1st data from COVID. So for the last 4 years, they're going year to year, but they're stopping at March 1st. So we have, I think we're at 13.6% of our students have missed at least 10% of the school year prior to March 1st. So this is data from the state. We just got this a couple weeks ago where they reported out that the achievements gap between students who are chronically absent and not chronically absent has a significant statistical difference. So you see in grade 10, 27 percentage points lower, less likely to reach your meter exceeding on MCAS if you weren't here, which makes sense. If you're not here for the instruction, you're not really gonna do so well on the test, right? But I did reach out to Desi. I have a pretty good relationship with their chief data person. The platform we use to get our own data, does not have this built in at the district level yet, so I don't have our scores for the discrepancies, but they're working on that because people have been asking about it. It's just not available because it's an outside vendor that creates the platform. But it is, as you can see, these are pretty striking numbers, and given where we are, we're probably in this trend. And the other thing too, there's a 50CAN did a study about from state to state about strengths and weaknesses relative to what parents and families thought. Massachusetts, as you can expect, probably we did very well. We were above the national average in 13 of the 15 areas. These are the two that we weren't as a state. Again, it's not district wide, but if you're thinking about what are we doing to prepare our students, the only places that we seem to be falling short is our confidence in post-secondary. So when we think about what we do in our high school, are we preparing our students? I mean, I don't know what our district data is, but as a state, it's not our strongest thing. We're good at everything else, but this is something that as we think about what we're telling our 10th, 11th, 12th graders and helping to prepare them, to be mindful that it may need some work, may need some improvement. So when it comes to the learning results, right? So how do we measure it? We have the ELA, math and science, MCAS exams. Grade 8 civics will have an MCAS exam starting this year. And something that I feel like I need to point out because I've had some questions about this. I know there's a ballot question. Regardless of how that vote turns out, MCAS will continue this year and for the foreseeable future. It is a federal mandate and in state law. So people are gonna think they're voting to get rid of MCAS and they're gonna be surprised when their kids are still taking it in the spring. Your kids are still taking it in the spring regardless of this vote. So some people have said, well, the MCAS data doesn't matter because it's not gonna be around. It's gonna be around. So, and I've linked in all the relevant information for that. So just wanted to correct some of the misinformation that we've been hearing out there. We also have our internal assessments, iReady, which is what we use for our early literacy K-3. We have a platform IXL, which takes care of the rest of the 4 to 8 grades for ELA and then all of 1 through 8 in math. We don't do the kindergartners yet. We're trying to find a different version that's more kindergarten friendly, but we don't have anything. So ELA, again, let's go through this really quickly because you have all the numbers. The growth scores, again, 40 to 60 is the good range. That's your typical growth. If you see school-wide, each of our schools have fallen within the expected range. So our kids are on track, ELA, every school, every grade level. So we're doing all right. Internally, this has been the really interesting thing for us to see because this is a change in our trend, is the retention level of the students. And by not, are we keeping them back, but what are they retaining over the summer? So at the end of last year, 77% of our grades 3 to 7 students fell at or just below grade level. We still count just below because of COVID. 73% began the year at or below grade level or just below grade level, which means only about 4% really had that slide over the summer. It's been much worse in the past. So our kids are remembering stuff over the summer. That's a good thing. That helps us out. That helps teachers out in September and October. They're not reteaching as much, or they shouldn't have to reteach as much as they may have been used to doing in the past. The same thing I read because it's a different thing. 98% went down to 91%. Still 91% of kids coming in day one, ready to learn at the grade level they're supposed to. That's a big number. That's a good number. So our early literacy is starting to turn around. We have new curriculum, we have new foundational skills programming for the kids. The data says that that's working. So takeaways, again, we're a little bit lower overall than the state, but the state was low in declined in every grade, 3 through 8 and 10 when it came to MCAS. So we did, but everybody did. But the second one is the one, again, The gap between students with disabilities and students without disabilities closed specifically with nonfiction topics, and that's been a struggle we've had for years about getting kids better with nonfiction. Our kids have always been strong with fiction. Kids have not been strong with nonfiction. We're getting there, especially with our students with disabilities. Grade 10 students, the NM students outperformed the state 27 of the 34 items, and we're statistically stagnant 5 others. That's great stuff. And then we've pulled more kids out of the not meeting expectations at the lowest level of scoring in MCAS, which is good. We're raising the floor of where our kids are. So all these things are really, really good. So we just need to support our multilingual learners a little bit better. And that just comes with more training, more exposure. This PD day that they're gonna get is gonna be a big step towards that. We just haven't had the population for our teachers to kind of get those reps in and learn how to do this work. They'll get there. We just need to provide them that support. The skills block assessments, that's for the early literacy. We've been working, Lisa and I, this year to really strengthen those, strengthen the data around those, get that back to the teachers so they can make their instructional decisions. And then just, again, the choosing resources, right? I mean, some of the same books that I learned about in high school are still being taught. I'm turning 50 next week. Like, that shouldn't happen. Like, we should be having new books coming in. Like, stuff's been written, it's cool, it's good. Like, we can teach the same lessons and values and themes with, newer material that will engage your students. So we're working towards that. Math, same thing. The growth scores were almost all within the range. Spalding was 39, it's right outside. It's a rounding error. It's basically there. So we're right on track with those. This is with a newer math curriculum. Most teachers have just finished their second year with it. Few teachers with their third year. But this is really good to be back in the typical range 2 years into an implementation. You don't see that very often. Our internal data, this is the thing that's gonna haunt us for a couple of more years, and there's nothing that anybody's been able to figure out what to do about it. I broke down grade levels by which kids have not had any COVID interruption to those who have, right? So our grade 3 students last year started post-COVID, so they didn't have, they've gotten the appropriate grade level education they should have gotten so far. 97% of them were at a new grade. Grade 4, the ones where they had the last class to have 2020 disruption, also 97%. So they're recovering because they didn't lose as much. They lost some kindergarten, but that's even more easily made up with the way grades 1 and 2 are structured. But you start to see the drop as the kids who missed half a year of foundational skills. It's compounding over time. And I'm in a lot of group discussions about what to do, and no one has this answer. Everything everyone's tried does not seem to be working. So again, we're not alone. We just don't have an answer yet, but we're trying. Teachers do the best they can, but this is something that until that class of kids cycles out, it's gonna be a few more years. It's gonna keep showing up. And so as long as we understand that and and take that into consideration when we talk about, hey, it's up. Again, we acknowledge it. We do the best we can with it, but it's gonna be really hard to completely reverse that trend. Again, we made gains in grades 3 through 5. Again, our elementary, they're taking on this new program, they're doing really well. The state only increased in grade 3, they were down in every other grade. So that was a good thing too. The second one is the one I like the most because it's the quality of the questions that the students were answering. As I went through over the summer, the item analysis data, our students are doing much better than the state in questions that are like that second level that make you think. The interpret questions, like the patterning, like those sorts of things that are a little bit more higher level. Our kids are actually doing really well with those. They're struggling, quote unquote, with the worksheet questions. It's like, okay, but we can fix that, or there's reference sheets for that, or Google will help them with that. But the thinking questions, they're actually doing pretty well. And that's an encouraging sign that speaks to the way the teachers are engaging with this improvement. The students with disabilities in the high school doubled. Paul Thompson and I worked on this beginning of last year. This was something that we specifically talked about as being the focus. He crushed it with the staff. Went from 9% combined between meeting and exceeding to 19, right? And the state is still at 12. So the high school did a really, really good job with those grade 10 student disabilities last year. definitely wanted to shove that out there. And again, we also had fewer students in the not meeting expectations, so we're pulling up that. As take steps, again, the multilingual learners. Hitting that data a little bit more to drive instruction, and then that consistency of experience as they progress through the grade levels, making sure that every teacher gets kids in front of them who have done the same thing the year before. Again, that's come. Science data, just quickly, 5 and 10 saw an increase, 8 decline, that's the state. Again, improvements with student with disabilities. And the grade 10 scored all above state level in all the qualifying subgroups. We don't have a high enough population for a couple of them, but everyone we did have enough, we were better than the state. AP exam data, this is quick, interesting, and I like this. The increase in participation was up 30%. The number of tests up 46%. The number of tests scoring to be higher fell, but it is, I believe, a sign that more students felt safe to take the test and take that risk. And that's what we want out of our kids, right? And that's why digging into the data, that second level is important. Like there's an easy world where you say, I just went down 5, so something's wrong. I don't think so. I think it went up 5 because kids wanted to take that test.
What is 3?
3 is passing. So that, if you pass the AP test with a 3 or more, you potentially don't.
What range?
1 to 6. Sorry. Yeah, you potentially don't have to take that class in college. There's thought about that, but in many communities, there's sort of a gatekeeping to it. It's like, don't take the test unless you can pass it, and there's a lot of anxiety that's attached to that. Here, it seems like more students were encouraged to take this test, give it your best, see what happens. I love that. That's the kind of attitude we want these students to have.
Doesn't that cost me money?
It does.
How much does that cost?
But if they pass it, you don't have.
How
to
much
pay
does it
the
cost me? I asked the question.
I think it's around $100.
$80 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, if they pass it, there are many colleges that will accept that in lieu of a college course, which as we all know.
Which is a great event.
Expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that there does need to be some work around with the pricing. And so then I'll just leave this in to look at the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, each identified where their strengths and supports were and what areas they were gonna be targeting for this year. So I won't read through the whole thing. But a lot of it is about sort of the training and the collaboration time between teachers, the modeling of effective practices, and paying attention to what groups are in need of more support and how do we provide that. So that is it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
You want me to ask?
Well,
You want me to ask more questions?
you can ask a question if you want. You have.
Here we go. I guess I'll address my other questions to Gary.
I just wanted to come and say thank you for bringing in the IXL and the iReady that you gave us that workshop on and bringing that into this data. Thank you.
Because honestly, to me, that's a better indication of how our kids are doing, because it more ties to what they're doing every day than, something that happens, but the year's not done yet.
Yeah, but it's still something that the school committee never had sight into. So thank you.
I know my kids come home and tell me they were on iReady or IXL, so they are good tools. All right. Anyone else have more questions or? On to the FY 2024 final general fund expense report and excess and deficiency. Nancy, please.
Good evening. I'll be quick, but I did want to provide the full committee with last year's activity for the budget, including the certification of the excess and deficiency, which has happened. Actually, it happened pretty early for us. Normally, we get that sometime in January, February, after the tax rates are set. We did get certified at $1,872,226. This is about 800,000 less than last year's certification. The E&D number is made up of the activity of the general fund year over year. So it's made up of expenditures in excess of what was budgeted or in revenues in excess of what was budgeted. So this year, of that 1 million, and also we carry forward, if we had any E&D from the prior year, that would be added to it. As we know, that didn't happen this past year. We did use the full E&D last year. To support the budget, so that gets reduced, that was reduced out of the number that we certified this year. So we have revenues coming in, about 620,000 over what we expected. The majority of that came as investment income. And I think that has to do with some of the ways that the funding was, the accounts that were set up. Our treasurer, Michael Hartnett, moved some things around this past couple of years, and that's increased the investment income significantly. We did get a return of funds from the Valley Collaborative of right around 150,000 last year, so that's part of that 620. And then a little bit more in the Medicaid reimbursement, almost 70,000 more than we were anticipating. So that the excess of the expenditures and the revenues over is what made up the 1.8 million. So you have that in your packet, the detail to look at if you'd like. You can take note that one of the things that's on that expenditure report is an expense column, but then there's also an encumbrance column. And the formula is a little funky as far as how it calculates that, because you're actually kind of closing out the prior year's encumbrance and adding the new encumbrances. So it sometimes doesn't look like you think it should look, but it's a little more complicated of a formula. The state did certify the number early, as mentioned. The Department of Revenue does that and goes through the whole financial statement. It isn't, we've had our audit, the audit isn't complete yet, but it's almost there. So I just wanted to update you on last year's activity. If there's any questions about it for this year.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Nancy.
Sure.
All right, onto the crosswalk. Our Superintendent Morgan.
Yes, so this crosswalk memorandum is something that has been drawn up by our legal counsel and was also done. That this was a project that was done in collaboration with the town of Pepperell, where we had 2 blind spots entering both the Nissitissit and the Varnabrook Elementary School. We had received several complaints. It's something that I brought to the committee back 3, maybe 4 years ago at this point, and it took engineering and the project to this point to be completed. So again, just coming back and asking that Ms. Martin, as the chair, have the ability to sign off on that memorandum of agreement.
And the money was already approved.
It's
Like
a,
when
it's
we
a separate,
did a
we
vote.
did transfer funds, that year, I want to say 2018 maybe, or 19. To cover the crosswalk work, and that work happened. And Pepperell provided a breakdown as best they could. They were the lead as far as bidding the project, and they included everything that they were working on. And some parts could be pulled out and some parts couldn't be, so they provided the letter that you'll see. I think it's like at the second page of that letter, that's the breakdown. And we looked at that and came to the conclusion to use the number that's in the MOU right now, which is the 259,981 to reimburse Pepperell, and we would be working on that if the committee approves the MOA. We'll go forward and work on getting that reimbursed to the town of Pepperell.
And this did pass through the finance committee. We did discuss it in finance.
Just out of curiosity, how much did we put away in 2018 or whenever we had originally put money away? Does this cover, does that cover everything?
It does. Yeah. We had 300,000, I think we transferred out at the year that we did that. We've done a few things. We paid actually for the design of the crosswalk areas. We did the contract with that engineer. They did the design work and then provided that to the town, and the town did the bidding. And they added to it, obviously, other things. So it was included in a larger project that the town did. But yeah, there's more, there's plenty to cover that, I think.
Can I take a motion?
I move the school committee vote to designate Lisa Martin as chairperson to execute the crosswalk memorandum of agreement with the town of Pepperell for the school committee. Second.
That was Will and Patrick. All those in favor? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Right, it passes. All right, we're on to the MASC delegate selection. Is there anyone wanting to go to the conference down at Cape Cod? Anyone? Not everyone jump up. All right. I see no one. All right. MASC resolutions. Anyone want to discuss any of them? They are all on here, but we don't have to discuss them. If somebody wants to discuss one, we can discuss it or we can pass on them. No one wants to do the
Since
resolution?
we're not sending a delegate, I
Yeah.
don't think we really
Okay.
need to vote on it, or set it, they don't have to discuss. Votes.
Okay. All right, now we are on to the old business of the district strategic plan and Dr. Rees.
Thank you very much. So earlier this year, we shared out the draft strategic plan. As I had identified at that time, there were three areas, three buckets that we were looking at: curriculum and instruction, meeting the needs of all learners or all students, and climate, culture, and community. After we shared out that draft with you, the leadership team did do some tweaking in terms of just the formatting of the document. So the first 2 pages are really the overview of what we're looking at over the 2 years. And then it goes into, the next 3 pages are the major milestones. So what you see listed there is under each category, what do we anticipate will be the major actions or major outcomes that you'll see as a result of the work in that area, along with identifying the specific year that milestone will be embedded as regular practice. That doesn't mean the work ends at that point in the year. The work will continue, but it'll be something that we anticipate will be embedded practice that will be in place and sustained moving forward. Going on to page 6, we did break it down, pages 6 and 7 by school year, so you could see kind of what it looks like from a school year perspective. And there's also a link on the top of page 6 to a more detailed document that breaks down each of the actions, each of the milestones, and shows all the sub-steps that go under them. We didn't want to get to that granular level on this core document, but we certainly wanted to provide the link so that people could see the type of work that goes under there. So at this point, the administration is really comfortable with these actions and moving forward. We would seek the committee's approval of the strategic plan. And if it moves forward, one of the goals we have is in the fall, doing a family community evening where we walk through the strategic plan in a little bit more detail. And we talk about the data sources that we use to identify these areas as areas of need, and also get input and feedback from families in the community about what other sources of data or what other concerns or things that they want to make sure we're addressing within those core topic areas.
Is that this fall?
Yes. We wanted to wait until we had the plan formally approved and then send something.
Does anybody have any questions on the strategic plan? Then I will take a motion from somebody to approve the district strategic plan.
I move to approve the district strategic plan as presented. Second.
That is Randy and Jean. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain. I haven't been through the whole thing, so sorry.
That's okay.
Working on it.
All right, we are on to the subcommittee reports. June McNeil with the Ashby Elementary Building.
We just received the electrification study that was grant funded. And that was just presented to us in our last meeting, so that is available if anybody would like it. And we'll probably get it on the site too. We're trying to get all the studies and everything on the new site, so Jen is taking care of that.
All right. Accelerated repairs, I know that we're trying to reach representative and to close out those projects. That's the only thing there. Finance, we are going,
So, the first item on our agenda is that the finance committee is recommending, that we appoint, and I'm gonna mess up her name, so I apologize, Kathy Laris, as the community representative to the finance committee for this year. Second.
that was Will and Patrick. All of those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Now we are moving on to the FY 26 budget. So Will is
Sure.
going to take over and
Okay, so, Mr. Morgan and I have been meeting with the town administrators, going over some of these, the basics of the budget coming up to the 26th. So, want to lay out a few items here, for the group. So, right now, of course. Fiscal 25 budget. Roughly $66 million. Okay? I gotta erase a few mistakes. All right, as many of you know, because I believe you guys all saw it, the letters from the three town administrators that they signed, they requested to us roughly, 3%, that they could handle a 3% increase from 25 to 26. Yes? All the letter? Yeah. Okay. So, in order for us to get to this, 3%. So, well, back up a step here. The towns are roughly 6%, 60% of our total budget. The remaining 40 comes from the state. Okay? So basic math here, 60% of our budget's coming from the towns. That obviously comes out to a 1.8% increase year over year for the budget piece. As we know, as we've been told, and we've seen historically, the state piece of it, I think we have predicted at, zero, which is, round numbers for it. I know there's a little bit of an increase, but it's always been, low, under, certainly under 1% to it. Nancy, we have your estimates like 0.3%.
Right now, we're anticipating, $60 a student and reduction in the transportation, due to, going down to 78%. It's unclear what those will be yet till the state sets their budget, but those are the numbers, which is 0.31% increase. One state number.
So 1.8% of $66 million, and I've done that somewhere. Somebody's got a calculator. There you go, right?
1.8% is 1,188,000. Are we looking for the total?
1.2 is probably close. You know,
Yeah, so an increase of, 1.2 million.
All right,
Mhm.
so, let's see. What we already have reported here for today, when we talk about E and D, you know, as we go to fiscal year 26. First, you know, the first change that we have. Well, yeah, it's increase of 800,000. 800,000 on the E and D, because we used 2.6 last year, there's only 1.8 this year. So just from that E and D portion of it, we're going up 800,000 over what we had last year in the budget. Also due to, which I don't know how much we did this last time, but right now, due to, you know, increase in the special ed costs from move-ins, from the, you know, language learners, you know, things like that. The already projected increase over last year is about $1 million. And new special ed that were on the side. Okay. The other projection that we, you know, we're projecting piece of it is about $500,000 in the increase of insurance costs. And since we're standing in the building here, let's not forget down the principal. So that's another 150 for the high school principal that we don't have in the budget. So already at a change of $2.5 million before we go to anything else at this point. $2.5 million on 66. Randy with the calculator.
Thank you, 68 now. Oh, the increase is,
The new budget probably is gonna be roughly that.
yes,
It's 3.8%. Okay, because the towns are 60% of that. Divide that by 0.6, please.
I'm sorry, 3.8% your,
3.8% increase. 60% of it's on the town. Okay,
Yeah.
which means their increase is. In order for them to
yeah,
cover this.
I know, sorry, I'm looking at, it's 2.28 for the whole budget,
It's the other
I have it
direction.
wrong.
Just over 10.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's what it's projecting right now. Yeah. We haven't pulled all the department requests yet, but just as a simple few things that we're looking at.
That's not, just a little spread of this.
We got 633. 60%. It's not perfect now.
So difference here. So. Let's go backwards.
That's correct.
I mean, you're there in concept, well.
So delta of 4.5%. Right? They said they could do 3, which when it calculates to our budget is 1.8. Ours is 3.8, so it really influences the town of roughly 6, 4.3, 4.5% off.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're gonna ask for an override.
I think you're slightly off on that. It's, because the towns go up 3% to 6.3. The difference for the towns, we're gonna see 3.3%, the 1.8. Our budget is going up 2% from what it can for the 3%. I think you got those numbers crossed. 6.33
Yeah.
is to the 3%. That's what the towns will see, 6.3
3.8
for the budget, full budget.
full budget. There's a
6.3,
60%.
right, so 3% for
There's-
towns going up compared to 6.3%. So it's 3.3% the towns are gonna see above what they're asking.
Right, we're saying the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just, you're adding that 3 onto the 3. 3.3 onto the 3, which is, right?
So the 4.5% should be 3.3. Sorry. The percent,
In each town, when it comes down to the numbers, it's gonna be different. We understand.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, but if we're gonna ask for something, obviously we'll figure out the dollar piece of it.
yes,
So that's where we're at. Okay, so sort of first option, you know, asking for something in that direction, just based on this group of changes, nothing else.
Mhm.
Okay? So in order to try to resolve this, right, what's the next step? Right? Oh, you know, option B. Cutting staff. If we say that the average cost of a teacher is 80, 85 plus benefits, it's called close to 100 is the spend, you know. 100 per 25. In that direction, don't know, obviously, you know, when it comes to the individual personnel side stuff. Not clearly, not gonna discuss that here. That's like an executive session scenario. Okay, but if we cut 25 teachers, we're talking huge increase in class size. Right, maybe some missing of programs. Other things there. Okay. Obviously, some of the stuff when we were going through this last year. You know, just talking about cutting some of those programs, we had, you know, people that said, I'm gonna go to private schools, I'm gonna go to tech, there's a drop of enrollment. That drop of enrollment obviously causes more problems for us each time we go. All right. Next one is the cutting of buildings. And, you know, we talked about some of that piece of it, you know, what some of it would cost us last year for it. But I think we're talking not just one here, we're talking multiple. The reason to talk about this now, and to discuss this now, is we have to talk about the appetite for this piece. Because if we're gonna go this direction and do this, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to figure out the structure and the changes here. That's, you know, we want to walk on capital and get more money from the state and try to raise their numbers. I think that's the math problem we're sitting at.
I think there's a lot of other options that are out there, not necessarily one magic bullet that's gonna hit $2.5 million or anything that we need. I think there's a lot of areas that the school district can take a look at, and I think there's a lot of areas that the school committee can sit here and make choices on. I think cutting buildings gotta be on the table. I'm not gonna take it off the table right now, but, we need to take a look at all of the ramifications of what cutting buildings means to the capacity of the district to grow in the future, whether we want to bring in more special education programs to help our special education budget and or create a revenue source. If we have another small surge, we've had bubbles go through here before. What it means if we close a building, will we ever be able to open it again? So there's a huge conversation to be had other than, are we for or against cutting buildings? There's so much information that we don't have. I think it needs to be a conversation, but it needs to be a full conversation. I think other areas that we can try and take a look at is, can we bring in some special education programs? It's been brought up to my attention. I don't know how big it is in the district of the dyslexia program. I know I have a friend in another state said that's an easy program. Again, don't know the circumstances in the district, but is there anything that low hanging fruit that we can bring some kids back into the district with a program? Are our numbers high enough to make it worthwhile to save the transportation costs and the tuition costs to offset what the program will cost here? I think we can take a look at our one-on-one technology. We spend a lot of money to have a Chromebook for every single student. Maybe it's time to consider bring your own devices. There's a lot of students, I know my kids came through here, especially at the high school, they were begging to bring in their own computers and not use the Chromebooks. So why should we, maybe we look at that and we can have a smaller fleet of Chromebooks and decrease some of our budget that way. I think we can take a look at any grants that we have to have matching money for. Are those programs pros and cons? Are they worthwhile versus a teacher versus a building? We need to take a look at everything on the table. It's been forever. Actually, it's never been that the school committee has taken a look at programs and what each program costs, other than the big things like athletics. But what about other programs in the district? I'm sure the administration has looked at it over the years, but with what kind of an eye? If we're looking at this from a cost perspective and what we have to cut, we might decide to cut something that, ordinarily we wouldn't. I think all of that needs to be on the table as well.
Why weren't these things on the table last year when we used all B and D?
Frankly, because I will tell you that it's just never been anything that's been coming up on the radar. We've usually 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when we had the override, that kind of solved the problem that we didn't need to do this. Last year it kind of came up, and I've been trying to think of different ways to do it, and I apologize I wasn't fast enough. But these are ideas that have come this year because, you know what, using our E&D last year, I even said it, that was a stopgap. It was not a solution. It was something that if we didn't get the override that we were going to do, so we didn't have to cut the teachers, and that we were going to try and think of more ways to help our budget or get more money. And that's what I'm doing here. But also an override is on the table as well, because we need money. It's just a matter of and everyone faces, the towns face it too, is there are costs that are beyond our ability to control, like health insurance and other costs that go up by more than 1.8% for what the towns can see from our budget, because the state's not kicking in. There's only so much that we can cut and still have a top rate educational program. So these are some of the ideas that I have come up with this year to start looking at. And an override needs to be on there. We need to thoroughly investigate what cutting buildings would do and what the benefits and the detriments are for that. And we need to take a look at all these other areas in our budget as well.
Yeah, I did that last year in more detail, right? And I'd be happy to talk with you. I know we have that third-party study as well, so I know that was all discussed.
No, we have not discussed buildings. We discussed the condition of the building and what some of the savings would be. We did not discuss it all. Does anybody know about how to reopen a school building? What we need to do? Can we, if we
Why
ever
would we
do that?
reopen that building? for either of those buildings.
Because we may need space in the future. We may need to have a need for it in the
There's
future.
other better ways to get space than reopening a building,
Oh, you want to build again? That's gonna be even more expensive than keeping this.
depending on the amounts. If it's just one bubble, there's trailers, there's lots of other less expensive options.
But there's other things than just,
Okay, let's go through them one at a time. then. So
Patrick,
let's start with,
let's do this in a very calm way and a systematic. I don't have all the information here at my fingertips, and it's just gonna be, back and forth without. It. Let's sit down, let's get this organized, have a list for pros, a list for cons, get the administration's opinions where they can put thought into it, get information as far as what cutting buildings can really do. And then we can discuss when we have facts in front of us.
if we need to cut buildings, when do we need to know by?
Sooner than later, probably.
So we need to have
There's a
these
lot of work.
conversations starting, but tonight's not the night because we don't have information here. I'd say let's have it on the table and let's get some, maybe a subcommittee together or a couple of people that want to work on this and get information for the full committee to discuss.
I think this should be the full committee. I think this is extremely important. I think we should all be here.
Okay. That's fine.
And as far as ideas, like I saw your email with some ideas, I'm not sure how any of those get us close to 2.5 million, and I don't think any of the towns have any appetite for override. With that being said, I know the Ashby building needs a lot of work still. Is there gonna be a secondary override in Ashby for that? Like, I don't understand, like.
Right now, that building is working. They have spent money. It is functional. And it's not a safety hazard, and, there's no reason that it needs to be shut down.
It's down to one boiler. If that goes.
No, that's been replaced or being replaced.
It is being replaced.
Yes, the money is there. They have a, I don't know, are we in contract yet or,
Yes.
okay, so they have 2 boilers.
Currently one. Currently one.
Ask us next month. It's
Yes.
due.
But if we're
Chair,
considering closing the building,
order,
It's
please.
all right.
All right, June, have your hand up.
Yes, just to call for order because typically we don't have meetings with people shouting back and forth and Randy had the floor. But I guess since you called on me, I will say that Randy has a lot of good ideas here that should be looked at. We jumped right to extremes. There's no information in the packet or the agenda to even truly have a discussion about this yet. And in fact, although Patrick seems to have mentioned a building, buildings plural was mentioned. And I'm wondering what that is about. Because there's no information for us to even start talking about this yet. Like, what buildings?
Don't know. The question is, do we give the administration the direction to look at, making changes in that direction?
Okay, well, I would think that would
Because
be
it's
a
gonna take
very
a
last
long
resort.
time. Understood, but
I would much rather go back to the towns first and really hear from the towns. I mean, if this is
I-
something that we want to look into,
and that's what
I
I'm
think we
saying,
need
as
to,
part of the finance report, we've had multiple meetings with the town administrators. They're telling us what their appetite is for the year.
right,
And I'm telling you, there's a huge gap between these pieces already.
so what, 1.3 million, is that it, the 2.5 minus the
Where
1.2?
to change, yes, so.
So 1.3 million is what we're looking
3.3 difference.
to make up right now. And you said that would be about 25 teachers, essentially.
$2.5 million.
Yeah, so that's actually even more than what we would
I mean,
need to cut.
just
But-
doing round numbers because we don't have final stuff yet. Right, we're just getting. through
Right,
this
but it's not a hard cut and dry, either we do an override, we fire 25 teachers, or we close multiple buildings, like this is not. I mean, there's so many other things that need to be looked at, first of all, and I think until we start diving a little bit deeper into some more options, we don't jump right to extreme.
Just to clarify, that 2.5 does not have any of the collective bargaining agreements in it. as of yet. It also does not have transportation increases, and all of those are built-in increases.
And that 2.5 is the total number, though. That's not,
That's just.
No,
that's not the six.
This is just where we're at
Right.
today.
Right, no, I just mean the overall budget. It's not like the 60% town share or whatever.
Right now, just with those items, our budget is $2.5 million over where we are right now in FY 25. But
Right,
it doesn't.
which the town would pay about 60% of, which would be about 60% of that 2.5.
Plus
The assessment would be
Plus the other
6.3.
cost that we have talked about.
Lost some revenue as well,
Yeah.
so.
Lisa Bloom.
But the assessment, instead of it being the 3% that they requested, is actually right now it's 6.3. But that's without those other items added in yet.
On the Zoom 212 meeting call that we were on, it did say I forget the person's name who said it, but they did say that it's really not good for a regional district to close a school or for a town not to have a school in it. So.
Yeah, it was in the presentation that
Yeah.
Julie Kelly,
Yeah.
everybody should have received a copy of
Yes,
that.
yeah. And that Zoom call, I believe it was recorded, so if anybody wants to go on, was not, you can watch it.
I know that we need to investigate these things. And Randy does bring up great points onto what we have to look at. But we do have to give the superintendent a direction on how to go about this. And we have to act quickly. Because we can't come to April and not have a decision on things, because we ended up there last year with the overrides. And they took us until the beginning of this year to get solved. I do know from the towns, because I've talked to town leadership, they are not they do not want overrides. They're not in the mood. The townspeople are not in the mood. I mean, every town meeting that I went to, there were several disgruntled citizens that said no more to the schools.
I agree.
And I know that that's not correct. But we need to really listen to our citizens and figure out the next action plans for these. And I know that our towns do not want to lose a school. I know that. But we do have a lot of real estate in our district, and we do need to figure out a plan going forward. Our schools are gonna need repairs going down the future. We know that Hawthorne Brook needs repairs. We know that our high school already needs repairs, and it's a newer building. So we do need a plan for the future too. And I know that these discussions are tough. And I know that they'll get emotional, but we need to keep quorum amongst ourselves, because how are we going to stand with the citizens to what they decide? But we need to really give Superintendent Morgan and his team what direction this committee wants him to go in. So that being said,
But it's very hard to do that without any information.
and I agree, but we need to act quickly to get the information. So the things that you've outlined, Randy, I don't even know where to begin, but we need direction probably before the beginning of the year for Brad to go, probably by even December 1st. Because doing any of these is gonna require a lot of time. And we're gonna have to get the support for them too. So anyone have any proposals on how to go forward?
I'm happy to put in some extra work. Unfortunately, I do need administration's time, because I just don't have a lot of the answers and things, but put some numbers to some of the ideas that I had to look into, and see what ballpark some of these cuts could possibly make, or these trade-offs could possibly make. I think it would be good for somebody to put together, like pros and cons, at least for staff cuts, for building cuts, for program cuts. So we can take a look and see what the trade-offs are, for different decisions that we make.
Anyone else? Okay. With, June.
I think at this point, we do just need any more information. I mean, as far as looking into any of those, we need to know, what are we looking at? Are we looking at multiple buildings closing? Because that's what was mentioned. And if so, what are those buildings? I would like to have that in front of me and say, these are the buildings that we would look at closing. These are the buildings we would not look at closing. You know, something like that to even start this conversation. I don't like the idea of flying blind and say, yes, please pursue any of these without having any clue what we're talking about.
Anyone
Yeah,
else?
I mean, there's a lot of details that still need to come. But without saying we're willing to take this step and go that direction. You know, because it doesn't make sense to spend a whole lot of time. You know, all the time it takes to go figure option C out. If,
I mean, what are the potentials for option C? I mean, any information I'm saying, I would not want us to give any directive to pursue something that we don't know what we're talking, we don't know what is being pursued. I mean, you know, what are we talking about closing here? And if you don't have an answer yet, then we don't have enough information to give directive to
I mean,
them.
how, we can't get all that deep into it.
No, we can't. We have 7 buildings.
Yeah.
Buildings is plural. I know Patrick likes to bring up AES a lot. What other buildings are we talking about closing? If nobody can say that to me, I'm not gonna give a blessing or a directive to
No,
pursue it.
We're just saying, are we going to go down the path of looking at that? Or are we taking that off the table and start?
I think we should take that off the table to start with, while we pursue any of these many other options that should be looked into. And if we exhaust all of our other options, then perhaps we start looking at more options.
Okay. My concern is, we had a lot of discussion about some of the user fee pieces of it. None of them came anywhere close to $2.5 million. So we have to think bigger than that.
May I say something?
Yes.
I did just want to add that if an override is something that we're going to ask the towns to consider, it cannot be a May town meeting with a June ballot vote. We can't wait that long. It would have to be a special town meeting and a special ballot vote, so that we're able to plan, because even, again, option C, option B, any combination of the two, you're looking at potentially months of planning. So it can't, so an override vote would have to be something, it can't be like last year, there wouldn't be enough time for us to open school.
Just a thought, throwing it out there. What about moving, the kindergarten to Hawthorne and the 8th grade to the high school? 8th grade was in high school when I came here, so.
Those are options that, I mean, if we give Mr. Morgan and his team the direction to go, they can look at consolidation and movement of some of the classrooms around, or the classes,
And then
like bringing 8th
Waterford
grade.
gets closed
and-
Nothing's that, you know, and
But kindergarten,
kindergarten could go to Hawthorne.
You mean pre-K?
you mean pre-K?
Yeah, pre-K, I'm sorry. Yeah, pre-K, thank you, Randy. Pre-K, go to Hawthorne.
I don't know if Hawthorne is equipped. That's why we would have to give the
Yeah, that's
direction.
why I'm just kind of, I don't know that.
But then like the Squanicook is central office. We have central office there. We'd have to relocate central office if we're looking at closing Squanicook. If we're looking at possibly closing Hawthorne Brook, we have to figure out where to put those students. If we bring 8th grade here, do we send the students to Nissitissit? If we look at any of our elementary schools, where do those students go to be housed? Those are the directions that Superintendent Morgan needs. And besides looking at these other things that Randy has put on the table. Right. Which is all going to take time to figure out. And several meetings.
I mean, clearly a field includer would require a lot of research and a lot of effort. So again, I don't want to give that directive to pursue any of that if you're looking at multiple options, because that's a lot of time and a lot of work that we may not want to pursue once we, look at these other options. So I think if that's something that people seriously want to look at, we need to have a little bit more direction and say, if we move the schools to this, this, and this, or this, and this, those are the things I want to pursue. Not let's just look at all of our buildings and, you know what I mean? I would like more details before we say waste admin's time if they're pursuing a direction that we don't want to go. So let's get some more details on that piece. And in the meantime, I think we need to take a serious look at a lot of these other options about bringing some more special education programs back.
One of the issues with bringing special education back is that I know that, because it's specialized training for all of these, and it's gonna bring on more money to our special ed costs for these specialized training teachers. Is that something that, and we take,
And that's something we need to know how many students, if we have yay amount of students being sent out of district for a certain program, then that's probably a program that we want to find out what would the cost be to bring it in and bring those students back.
Because if we have enough students to support a teacher, then we save on the transportation costs and that pays for the program. And gives us lots of savings. That's the whole reason for bringing in special education programs. But it all depends on what our population is going to be.
Just a completely random idea that I just thought of right now, the way that we combine something as simple as PD with another district, like Lunenburg, is there opportunity to find out what neighboring schools have for resources like that too, and potentially combine programs?
we have reached out to Groton and Dunstable. They have no interest in consolidating some of our services with us.
Okay, well, perhaps we're,
And
Lunenburg, we have a relationship with.
they are not interested as well. As
Okay.
consolidating some of like our central office and things like that.
Well, I'm thinking more special ed
Special ed.
services. If they have, certain teachers and staff that, are more qualified in certain areas that could somehow be shared or something. Just an idea.
It looked like almost like a tuition. Our own collaborative, almost like,
Exactly.
We have, program A, and because a couple districts around us don't have enough students, bring it here, and then a different program, if whoever has the more students, but not enough to program, if we have enough, we send them there.
I do think that, I think one of the things that we have to be careful of is, bringing the students back into the district is always a good thing, but something that we could run into is that if we bring back a percentage of students that are considered inclusion students, we could start to eclipse the 50% barrier in classrooms, which can be a problem. If you have a classroom where over half of the kids are on IEPs, that can sometimes be problematic. it is not something that is recommended. I don't know, Dr. Reese, if you have anything that you want to add on to that, but that could be something where our numbers are high right now. And in some cases, we are, I would guess we're close to that number. We do have to be cautious not to go over that 50% threshold in the inclusion center.
What happens after 50% threshold?
I would have to talk to Bessie. It is not something that is, it's not something that is recommended or anything about.
Go ahead, Jean.
So at this point, I mean, there are a lot of good ideas out there, and just having this discussion, we're starting to have some more ideas, which is great. So perhaps maybe that's something we can schedule, is just a way to talk out a lot of this, but even invite the public to give some input to something like that. Just, you know, another, I don't know, more ideas essentially, and diving a little deeper.
A brainstorming workshop.
Yes, thank you. That's what I'm
Like a
trying to
workshop,
say.
but this workshop has to take place quickly,
Right.
like next week.
But at least now the conversations are starting, because like I said, there was nothing in the packet about this. I asked through email
And
a
this
few
is-
times, what is this conversation about? So coming to the table, I have a blank slate.
Well,
nothing.
and
So-
that's fine, because I think we want the discussion to happen in a meeting
Mhm.
and not over emails and not,
No,
you know,
right.
so I think that's why, like, when Will and I had chatted, we said, let's bring everyone together. So we're together and see each other and can have this conversation and get it started, just getting it started.
Right.
We're
'Cause I'm
not-
saying I'm gonna go home and go to bed and think of something right before I'm falling asleep,
And
and
so-
something 3 days from now. And I mean, Randy had a nice list prepared from, I'm sure, finance subcommittee meetings, but I think, you know, to really have a good conversation, we need to know that this is the conversation we're going to have
Yes.
before we have
Yeah.
it. So,
And so that's why this is the start of the
Mhm.
conversation,
which is.
but we need to act quickly.
Mhm.
That's because we can't take all of the superintendent's time or Nancy's time going down a rabbit hole that we're never gonna
Right.
do. So, given that, anyone have a proposal on what they want to do?
I recommend we give the superintendent and administration direction on showing us options B and C. Items other than the override,
Options B,
B
Is
and
cut.
C.
cut staff,
Yep,
and option C is buildings and perhaps staff too, because you may not get to the number we need, because we have contractual obligations. Does everyone, and look into, because that would be looking into these programs as well. And things.
So a point of clarification, when you say administration to show us, do you mean the point that I was asking, like this is, you know, potential to close this school or potential to move
It's a piece of.
students here and there without actually pursuing any of the information yet, so that we can give admin an
actual-
indication of which direction we would want to go once
Yeah.
we hear this.
Once you hear the full packet.
We're just asking them to do a feasibility study, essentially.
No, I don't think so.
What?
We wouldn't know, because that would involve probably a lot more work than, again, if we don't want to send admin doing a bunch of stuff that we might not want to pursue at all. So I think we need to hear what buildings and what, say redistricting students around options there are before we determine if we want to actually do a feasibility study on any of them.
Why would we make that option and not leave it up to Brad and his team who understand the buildings, who understand what we can and can't close and why we can and can't close it? Why would we not leave everything for them on the table to decide what could and couldn't be done?
Because that's what the school committee does. We give them a direction.
And the direction would be to look into closing buildings.
Not everything willy-nilly, no, it's looking into specific of one building or another. We're not gonna have Brad take all his time looking at a whole bunch of different scenarios that we might not want to entertain. I'm fine with him showing us some options, but doing a feasibility study or exploring these other avenues any deeper without going through the school committee doesn't make any sense.
But how would he show you options without looking into the feasibility?
He
of
would
it being
say,
possible?
option 1 is close Ashby Elementary and move students here. Option 2 is close Nissitissit and move students here. Option 3 is close the school and that school and move students here. He would tell us what the different options might be that admin wants to look at. And then we would say, oh, let's look at this one, but not these ones.
I think we're saying the same thing.
I don't think we are.
It depends on what you're talking about, what level, of information we're asking to come back this first time.
I just want the most basic,
Options that would
very simplest information without a feasibility study or taking up very much time.
There's also 3 members. Not represented.
Exactly.
Sorry.
There's also 3 members not here tonight also. So first we have a motion on the floor.
second.
Right, the clarification though was what does show us mean? I mean, what, perhaps Superintendent Morgan, what do you envision showing us?
Are you asking me to come back with potential, recommendations for buildings and grade configurations in those buildings?
And cutting staff, I guess, if that would be the other option. If you were just gonna show us a layout of like, these are the potential options.
Or these are ones that we'd like to, go down and look at on whether it's actually fully feasible.
Yes,
At
I
high
mean,
level.
the staff I've already pretty much looked at, and I mean, I can share that, if we reduce 15 staff, it gets us to about 1.4 in class sizes of 29 to 34. If we go to 20, if we go to the 2.5 mark, we're gonna be close to 40 in our classrooms. Which is,
Right, I mean,
so
no, I think it's a good
we've already
indication.
looked
I mean,
at,
it's
we've already
not
looked
a,
at staff.
But again, the way to cut this money isn't all cut staff, it's not
Exactly.
all cut buildings, it's not all cut.
No,
eight
but it could be a
programs.
combination of.
Right.
Right.
So what we're asking for is, you're asking us to give you a direction on what to look at so that you can go down the hard road of doing the full feasibility on how things would work.
Yes.
Yes.
We're asking for one step before that. So your gut right now is, I would like to explore these things because I think this option might be the best. That we might come and have a good outcome if we go down there. And this is another possibility between cuts, buildings, and programs or other things.
Okay.
So that we can sit here and weigh the pros and the cons of those avenues. And then give you the permission to go down, the extensive, look at and energy of figuring out how it would work.
So I'm gonna propose this. For me, overlooking, seeing what buildings we could cut or look at potentially, so that we can give Superintendent Morgan a better view of what we may think of, is that we know that we have 2 buildings in Townsend of Squanicook and Hawthorne Brook. We know that Hawthorne Brook is going to need extensive repairs. And we know that Squanicook is not fully used. Would we want to send Brad down the direction of looking at Squanicook and Hawthorne Brook and taking one of those offline? And the other option is also add Ashby in to counterbalance the others, because we know that Ashby still needs work, even though they have progressed in work. But we know that Ashby probably is not going to go for another override as well.
I mean, Ashby is safe and functional, and any of the immediate things that were talked about a couple of years ago have already been addressed by the town. But, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. And I
It's okay.
completely lost my
You can
train of
come
thought.
back.
Sorry,
You
Lisa.
can come, it's okay. But do we want to look at Ashby in a consolidation point of view to get more of our kids together so everyone's consolidated? Kind of thing. That's where my approach is that we can balance out our special ed programs across the district where we don't have to keep everything at Barn and Brook. Because right now they have all of the special programs. And so, and it's taking a strain on that school. Whereas if we could spread out maybe some of those programs, we wouldn't have as much of a strain, but we'd have to see what we can do with the other two.
Again, I'd just really like to see what the actual options might be before any of it is, you know, I don't wanna send him down a rabbit hole that nobody wants to pursue. So,
I'd like to see it on paper of a couple of different layouts, and some reasonings, pros and cons, just high level pros and cons of, what it means.
Okay. Patrick, did you have anything? So again, we have a motion on the floor. Do we want to take a vote on this motion for? And I think it was having superintendent look at the cuts of staff and the possible cuts of buildings with a proposal behind it of what buildings and the reconfiguration and consolidation or whatever name you want to put around this.
so just showing us potential options without wasting his time
Yes.
doing our
Like,
feasibility study
Overall
or anything
picture,
like that.
like big
So-
picture, not getting into the like busing routes. We're not gonna like
Right.
schedule busing routes
Right.
right now.
And potentially a variety of options, so we can try to start to
Yes.
narrow it down.
Yes.
And
And we'll
also
look
the other
deep
options that
dive
Randy
into these.
mentioned.
Yes. Are we ready for a vote?
I have that.
All of those in favor?
I,
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? All right, now that a workshop was proposed, we can have a workshop with the committee. When is everybody's schedule? To an open date?
What about Thursday, November 7th? Next week, we have Halloween. Our next Tuesday night.
I am away until 12.
And then we have a meeting on the 14th.
Nate, can I make a suggestion? It just, this is. There's a lot of night events right now, especially here at the high school. And we do have various subcommittee meetings as well. I would suggest, if at all possible, just having the school committee meeting and the workshop before the school committee meeting.
Okay, on the 14th?
Yes, just because
Is everyone-
the night events at this
Yeah.
point in time at the high school are almost every
Overrun.
night.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you guys okay with an early meeting? What time do you want to start that? And that's where the information can be reviewed. That is separate.
And maybe share ideas with, just bounce ideas off maybe a finance committee meeting in advance. I don't know.
And hopefully, I mean, with that being 3 weeks out, hopefully we can fill in some of these numbers that Randy was asking about.
So on the 14th, you guys want to schedule a workshop? What time do you want that to start? Our meeting's at 6.
We could try 5. I don't know if everyone can make it.
Would that be enough time or do you want 4?
I think Or it makes it hard for people to get there after work.
Wait, are you saying you wanna do this right before the school committee meeting?
Yeah.
How does that give us time to go over everything and then actually be ready to vote on things?
Well, we'll discuss some in finance
Okay.
and then,
maybe suggest that the meeting be at 7 and the workshop be at 5. So we can make the meeting a little later. And then we can make the workshop a little later as well, and maybe have 2 hours to an hour and a half
to figure out.
to go over some options. I mean, obviously, time is of the essence, but we are gonna need time
To gather some
to
information.
gather the information.
Right, I guess, to Patrick's point of, discussing all this and then going into a meeting to vote on it, doesn't really give people a lot of time to digest all of the information, as well as we were talking about the workshop being more for generating ideas. Which obviously, if we generate more ideas on where we can make compromises, then we're not gonna have any details, in feasibility and numbers.
When we have December meeting,
Like,
sorry,
hold on a minute.
December 12th.
oh, December 12th.
And we can always do, I don't know people's availability on the weekend, on a Saturday morning or something like that. Just to kind of sit down and do a brainstorm.
Make myself available for anything.
Thoughts?
I think sooner than later, day to go through Randy's email and go through every point and have. Just figure out if there's anything there that is a actual cut that can. Decrease money, because I think even on top of B and C, you're looking at 3 million. That. I mean, Randy has some good ideas in there. Do I think it's 3 million? No, but every good idea that she has might save a teacher, so absolutely.
Brad, how long to gather your information on some of these?
And again, to brainstorm some new ideas, we don't need to have, Brad doesn't need to have his part
Yeah.
together.
I would say a week anyway.
Can you do your workshop on the 4th, maybe,
The 4th is a Monday.
or, you know. Or the 5th or something there.
Right now, there's nothing scheduled here at the high school on the 4th, so I could do that.
Throwing out dates out.
Do you want to do a workshop on the 4th
I could do that.
instead? Does everyone work? with
Mondays seem to.
Mondays might.
Is this an in-person workshop?
In-person
Yeah.
workshop.
We can do it in person, we can, I mean, it's a workshop, we can zoom in, Will, if he wants to join.
Yeah, out of town.
Oh, are you out of town that whole week?
Yeah.
Would you be able to join
Would
something
you
by
be
yourself?
able to join?
I do think, and I'd have to check with Nick unless someone knows the answer, I do think we should try to do the executive session, to do it in executive session where people could potentially be identified just by talking about reductions.
So a closed workshop and executive session? Does that?
I wouldn't want someone,
I mean,
just because if we start talking about positions, people know where they are, unless in your list.
Is the workshop more for just brainstorming new ideas, though? We're not necessarily identifying
Well,
specific.
some of the new
Yeah.
ideas may come out of information that we're given, there's.
So I'm looking at staffing reductions. And talking about potential staffing reductions. I wouldn't want someone to be able to identify who they are.
Right, I understand, but our workshop isn't where you're presenting various options to us. It's where we're trying to come up with more places to find money,
So
essentially.
potentially some of the suggestions that Randy wanted us to look at, we're looking at
that would look
programs.
at, okay.
And so when you're looking at those programs, that might be
Got it.
where it gets a
Okay.
little touchy.
And it's not that we're trying not to be transparent.
No, I
to the
completely
community,
understand, yeah.
But we do need to protect the people that we hire.
Right, I just wanna differentiate between the brainstorming workshop where we're just kind of bouncing on ideas and, you know, other things that we can look at compared to like, what options are we exploring further as far as the bigger potatoes, so.
Yeah.
Is there a time that's better for you, Will? Or that week? Zoom in?
Are you East Coast? Yeah. I mean, Wednesday, yeah, I mean, Wednesday's better for me than certainly Monday or Tuesday.
Wednesday's the only day I can't do.
Excellent.
I mean, I could do 5 o'clock. So I guess I could do it. Well, 5:30 in that time frame.
On Wednesday.
6.
Yeah, if we could do 5:30, that'd be great.
5:30 on Wednesday.
So,
And that will be a closed executive session workshop for the school committee.
and it's in person,
Yeah, in person.
and then your follow-up meeting will be a regular scheduled time at 6 p.m. on the following.
And
The 14th.
we necessarily do not have to have it in the LGI room. We could pick a different room, conference room.
Well, we could always do it at the central office, if that's easier. We do have the PD room in central office,
What would work easier
or
for everyone?
or
I'll be funneling remote as well.
Okay. Okay,
I mean, you
I
just
mean, we
come,
can have a closer room. We'll figure
Yeah.
a room out.
5:30 on the sixth.
5:30, was that the 6th?
yes.
Okay. 5:30. All right. Are we done with the budget discussion? And now on to policy. Randy.
Policy, so there's a number of the ones here for adoption. I am pulling JIC student discipline. We had a comment from a community member that we discussed in our last policy subcommittee meeting, and we're gonna make some small changes to that policy. So I'm gonna read them all together. If anybody wants any of these pulled out for any particular reason, let me know. But I'm gonna make a motion that the school committee approve for adoption policy DJA-1 Regional School District Purchasing Authority, DJE-1 Regional School District Procurement of Requirements, IHBA Programs for Students with Disabilities, IHBD Compensatory Education, IHBEA English Language Learners, IHBF Homebound Schooling, IHBG homeschooling, IHBHE remote learning, IHCA summer school.
Second.
Great, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain. I didn't do my homework, but I'm doing it policy.
It's okay. Okay, and then we have just a couple for first reading, the JIC all the way through the EHB. We're pulling, we did not get through those in our last meeting. So I move that the school committee approve policy IIB class size, IJ instructional materials, and IJL library materials selection and adoption for a first reading.
Second.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Moving on, Mr. McPhillips with the warrant committee, any report?
Warrants come in, I review the warrants, I sign the warrants.
Okay. Negotiations and personnel teachers, I have no updates at this time. Randy, any with negotiations of non-teachers?
Nothing.
Community outreach and town liaisons. Anything with Ashby?
No, it's
Anything with Pepperell? No. Anything with Townsend?
We do have another, summer meeting, just to call it, the administrators, town administrators on Monday.
And then we are on to other business, any other business, and it is 8:30 right now, so
Yeah.
we timed this out really well.
I was gonna say, I have one quick thing, it doesn't necessarily require a vote, but I had meant to bring it up at the last meeting and I apologize. There is an ongoing wellness committee that Catherine Hampson has started last year, and with this on our wellness policy and making sure that we are looking at the district on implementing everything in the wellness policy and improving wellness in the district. It's a committee that has a cross-section of, I think there's a community member, there's obviously nurses, there's health or gym teachers, there's other teachers in the district. I was on it last year. For right now, I just went to the meeting that was today, but wanted to open it up. If anybody else wanted to be on this committee, please speak up. I'd be happy to give up the spot for somebody new if they would like to. If not, then I'm happy to serve. I'll take that as I'm happy to serve. But I wanted to bring it up and just make sure.
All right. I will take a motion to adjourn. That as well. What?
I like
Do we, is it okay if we allow Chuck to talk? Is everyone okay with that? He's a representative from Pepperell. All right. Chuck, you have the floor.
First of all, I appreciate everyone's on the committee's dedication and the stuff that you told me. Talking about budgets and possibility of cuts is not, it's not fun. And we are doing that at town level as well. When the PAs and the group got together with the leadership of Middlesex, and we proposed the 3%, that wasn't because we don't want to do more. It's because there's nothing to do. I would ask you guys to look 2 lines below where it says TA 3% and 60% and 40% state and 0 increase. The state has money. They just don't have the right priorities. And I think we need to make that loud and clear to all of our constituents. I certainly have been making that clear. It's not, we're not trying to reduce costs. We both have a revenue problem. I can speak for Pepperell and in other towns. We're constrained to 2.5%. That's what we're constrained by. You guys are constrained by the funding from the state. And unfortunately, the state has chosen not to fund local aid to municipalities and has chosen not to fund the schools. And I think as you go through this deliberations, we have to keep that in mind. And as you're talking to the constituents, we got to let them know that we are doing everything possible. I don't think Brad has a fat budget. I don't think that there's thousands of people sitting up there that we don't need. It's an important task that this high school does for our communities. And I really wholeheartedly thank you guys for your efforts, but we are missing that third leg of the stool. You guys are doing what you should be doing. I believe the towns are doing what they should be doing. The state right now is failing. I just wanted to thank everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, now we have a motion on the floor to adjourn. Will,
Yes.
who seconded?
I would, as.
Okay, Patrick. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? No, thank you. Thank you, everyone.